And I think it is just about time to get started. Hey, welcome to another episode of At the Track Live. My name is Coach James. I am the creator and lead instructor for All About Aerodynamics. What is All About Aerodynamics? Glad you asked, even if you didn't ask. All About Aerodynamics is a science program where I use Hot Wheels cars to teach kindergarten through 6th grade students about aerodynamics, about physics, about drag, about lift, about a whole range of physics-related topics. Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion, kinetic energy, potential energy, etc., etc. And after I've taught them all the science and after they've learned all the lessons, then I bring in about 400 different Hot Wheels cars. Each student picks a car that they think would be fastest in a series of races, and they choose the car based on everything they've learned about physics and aerodynamics, lift, drag, and the way air moves over, under, and around moving objects. And once they pick their car, they document everything about the car, and then we set up a 20-foot drag strip, and we have a tournament, and we have races, and they observe how their car performed. Did their car perform up to or below their expectations? And if they had the opportunity, would they select that car again? Or would they make a different choice? They make all these observations. We have a lot of fun. But before I can bring the cars into the schools for the students to use, I have to make sure that I know which cars I'm bringing in and which cars I'm taking home so that I leave with the same cars that I brought. So what I have to do is I have to document all the cars that I have in my collection. So that means I have to take pictures, I have to take video. The video is really because there's an online version of All About Aerodynamics, and so the students can't choose the cars in person. So I shoot the video so that they can get a 360 look at each car before they make their selection. So I have to take the pictures, take the video, and then I have to enter the information into a spreadsheet that includes the name of the car, the year it was manufactured, and then I assign it a number. And then I put it in a case that has a number so that I can pull the cars quickly and replace them after they've been used. But what does that have to do with why we're here today? Why we're here today is because since I have to go through the whole process of cataloging the cars, I tried to figure out a way to make it more interesting for me and maybe a little more interactive and interesting for other people who are interested in Hot Wheels. So I came up with AtTheTrack.live. What is that? Well, what I'm going to do is every time I go to a store that sells Hot Wheels, I pass by the Hot Wheels aisle and take a look, see if there's anything new, anything that catches my eye, anything that I think that the students might like, and I pick it up. And because Hot Wheels cars are really just about $1.25, I tend to pick up more cars than I end up cataloging and putting into the system. So I have storage crates full of Hot Wheels, probably a few hundred Hot Wheels cars that haven't been opened. So what I'm going to do on At the Track Live is I go into the storage bin, I pull out about 6 cars every week, crack those open, take a look at those, I take the pictures, shoot the video, do a quick little review, and then once we've got those 6 cars, take them out to the track, and we have a little mini tournament, see which car is the fastest. From that mini tournament, there will be a winner. That winner will take on last week's winner, which is our fastest in fleet car, our champion. But there's also an opportunity for you to participate. And all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live, and you will have three options. The first option will be the YouTube link, second option will be the Twitch stream, and the third option will be a link that says choose a car. If you select that option, it will take you to this page, and on this page you can scroll through and you can see all of the cars that are currently in the All About Aerodynamics At The Track Live fleet. And right now we are up to, let's see, I'm looking at the spreadsheet. We are up to 578. There are 578 different Hot Wheels cars in the All About Aerodynamics At The Track Live fleet. And I just saw something. So what you can do is you can scroll through these cars. You can take a look at them. If you click on a picture, it will show you a larger close-up view. You can really get a look at the car. Most of the cars are either a metal body on a plastic base or a plastic base on a metal with a metal body. If that makes a difference to you, you can see that in these close-up pictures, and you can kind of see the base because there's a mirror on the bottom, so you can see that in this case, this tuned out Batmobile, we have a metal base and it looks to be a plastic body. And keep this in mind, this Batmobile, because we're going to come back to that. This is number 86. How do I know it's number 86? Because all of the cars are numbered. That's part of the cataloging process. So this is number 86. So I'm going to be pulling out cars today to introduce into the fleet. You can look through this list of cars, 578. And if you see a car that you think is faster than one of the cars that I've pulled, then all you have to do is find the car that you think is faster. Maybe it's this one, the high beam. And take that number, in this case 168, and then just drop it into the chat. And I will pull that car, and then we will take it to the track, and we will see on a best 2 out of 3 race if your car is faster or if the car that I just opened up is in fact faster. So you can take a look through here. There are all kinds of cars. Here's another Batmobile, so 86 and 218. And the reason I'm kind of highlighting these Batmobiles is because we're going to be talking about some Batmobiles later, and I know I have quite a few, but most of the Batmobiles are just called the Batmobile. So unless I look at the picture, I don't know which Batmobile it is, and therefore I don't know if I am duplicating cars. But nevertheless, as you look through here, you see we've got fantasy castings, we've got sort of traditional cars, we've got cars from the 80s, from the 70s, from the 90s, from the 2000s, and we have some cars that the most recent car that I bought, I think, is the last one that's entered. I picked it up at the airport, and it is a Volkswagen truck. This one. And see, another Batmobile. This Volkswagen truck, I picked this up at the airport. I kind of liked it. It wasn't fast, so if that's going to be your pick for the races, good luck. But if you watched last week, you'll know that this car is not exactly a speed demon on the track. So that is what we have there. You can select your car. But while this car, this Volkswagen T2 pickup, was not fast, a car that is fast is our current fastest in fleet car, which is this one right here. Let's get a little bit of love. Let me set the turntable in motion. for our current fastest in fleet car, the BMW M3 GT2. This car has beaten at least, has been faster than about 13 or so cars. It has been our champion for the past 2 or 3 weeks. What happened was when this initially, the first time I raced this car, it was going and everything was fine, and then it seemed to slow down towards the last third of the track, and it was strange, but you know, things happen. When I went back and looked at the video, it turns out that these wings on the car right here are pretty wide. It's a high wing and very wide. And when I took a closer look, one of the edges of the wing was bumping into the tripod that holds up the cameras that record the race. So it turns out that this car was being impeded by that tripod. So the next week I brought it back. When I brought it back and straightened out the tripods, this car took off and has been beating every car that it has faced. There have been a couple of close races, but not many. And so this car has been really fast, and I should be doing more promotion of this car because there's a whole few follow All About Aerodynamics and AtTheTrack.live on Instagram. You'll see that there are posts about the fastest in fleet car, and I haven't put this car up yet because I've been busy with some other things. But this car deserves some promotion, and if it maintains its dominance and maintains its championship status this week, then I'm not going to have a choice. I'm going to have to promote it and really make sure that people know this is the car to beat. And it has faced fantasy cars, mainline cars. It's beaten out the last 2 weeks cars with the faster than ever wheels, which are supposed to be the Hot Wheels kind of best fastest wheels. Essentially, the axle on the faster than ever cars is nickel plated, which reduces the friction and in theory allows the wheels to spin more freely, and the cars are faster. Well, they weren't fast enough to beat this BMW. So we will find out today if any of the cars that get introduced are fast enough to beat that car. And it should be interesting. So I'll just take another close-up look at our current champion. And as I mentioned, if you haven't done so already, you should follow us on Instagram at AA Aerodynamics. That is where I post information. I post the countdowns about about AtTheTrack.live, when we're going to be up. There's also a calendar. If you go to AtTheTrack.live, scroll down, there's a calendar that shows when I'm going to be streaming. The races are every Saturday at 11 a.m. unless there's some reason why I can't do it. But what we also started to do is on Friday afternoons, do a little preview show and take a look at the 6 cars that are going to be, we're going to open up on the Saturday, well, now. And we don't crack those open, but just take a look at them in the package. I just show which cars they are. And it gives people an opportunity to see which cars are coming up and then go through that list and select a car that you think is faster than one of those 6. So I mentioned the Batmobile, and I was taking a look to see exactly how many Batmobiles I had. But what I realized is that the cars, the the Batmobiles are not always named Batmobile. So there are quite a few. So for example, the one from last week, the Batmobile, that was the name of the car, the Batmobile. And so I know we have, let's see, quite a few. I'm going to go up and take a look. So Batmobile, there is one, the Batmobile. Then we have Batmobile Batman the Animated Series, Batmobile Gold, Batmobile Hard Nose, Batmobile the Batman, Batmobile the Brave and the Bold, Batmobile 1966 Classic TV Series. So there are a number of Batmobiles, and if I can, and again, the reason why I'm bringing this up, so I'm going to write down the numbers. So we have a Batmobile at 218. We have a Batmobile at, let's see, 218, 534, 361, 86, 481, and eventually 386. Eventually, I'm going to have an all Batmobile tournament. I think I have more than enough Batmobiles to make that happen. And there is a Batmobile, again, why is all this Batmobile talk? Because in the group of cars that are going to be introduced today, there is a Batmobile. So let's go ahead and take a look at the cars that are going to be in today's 6 and the cars that you have the opportunity to pick a car to race against. The first one, might as well just start off, is this one. This is, get this off of here, this Batmobile. And this one is, it just says Batman Rebirth. So I don't know if that means there was a comic book that was titled Rebirth, or if there was an animated movie or series or something entitled Rebirth, and this was the Batmobile. But this is what I've got right here. The Batman Rebirth Batmobile. Now, the thing with this is I'm looking at it, and it seems a little wide. And in the event that this doesn't fit on the track, I'm going to check to see if it fits on the track. If it doesn't fit on the track into the launcher, then I'm going to have a replacement. And the replacement is going to be one of these 3 Batmobiles. So we have this classic TV series Batmobile, this little miniature version. This other Batmobile, which I think is, I forget which movie this is from. And then we have this other Batmobile from the one, I think this is the one from the movie in the 90s, because it's got this huge wing on the back. But one of these 3 will replace this one if this one is too wide. But for right now, this is the one we're going to take a look at. We're going to crack open, and we will find out whether or not this is too wide to fit on the track, or if we are going to have yet another Batmobile entered in. So let's crack this open. These character cards with the extra packaging. So this is Batman Rebirth, and it's hard to say. I don't know if it's too wide or not, but it's a nice looking car. So I hope it is. I think it'll be good, because I'm comparing it to the BMW, and it doesn't seem to be any wider. Let's take a look at it here. Okay. anytime now. Take this off. All right. So here we go. This is the Batmobile Rebirth. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one, and I will enter it into the spreadsheet. A to Z. And this car is interesting because it's definitely metal. That the upper part, the black part is metal, that the gray part is metal. But what I'm seeing, what I like in the back, is that the back bumper appears to be flat. And if you've been watching any of the races up to this point, you'll know that cars that have a flat back end tend to perform better on the track because there's more surface area pressing against the launching block, and they end up getting a better release from the launcher. And in doing that, it helps them to stay straight on the track, and they don't bump around back and forth. Get this. This is a good looking car. Of the Batmobiles, this is pretty much one of my favorites. Even though, well, my favorite is the original, the old school Batmobile from the 60s. But this is a good looking car, and I don't know how it's going to perform on the track, which is the whole point of why we have to race it. But let's see, let's get this in here. Batman Rebirth. And I didn't check the year on this one. The year is 2017. Okay, got that. So now, time to get a still picture and change the ratio to square, and then zoom in just a bit, right about there. Get this kind of lined up better, right there. And try and get a good 3/4 view. So first, let me look at, yeah, that back end. It's kind of got a little bit of a slant to it, and it's got these little ridges that are sticking out like a diffuser. So that's the part that's going to press up, but provided that it fits into the launcher, I think this should get a pretty solid release and do well. So let me get the angle a little better, and I think that looks okay. Let me lock in the focus right here, and got the picture. So there we go. We have the Batman Rebirth, whatever Batman Rebirth is. If you happen to know, let me know, because I'm not familiar. I presume it's something comic book related, but I could be wrong. Nevertheless, Batman Rebirth is going to be one of the cars that is featured. And if this Batmobile is, for some reason, if it's too large, too wide at the back end to fit into the launcher, then it will be replaced by one of the 3 Batmobiles that is waiting. So there we go. All right, next up, let's see. We have get 27. We are up to car number 580. Quickly approaching 600 cars. That's a wild number. But let's see. We have car number 580 is going to be, let's go So we went with a fantasy car with the Batmobile. So now we'll go with an actual car, which is this one, the 70 Plymouth Barracuda. And this is a convertible. And let's go ahead and crack this open. Take a look. All right. Let's take a look at the Barracuda. We'll check the year. The year is not listed, so I will have to look that up. Okay. Go ahead. This car, it seems to have a little bit of weight to it. I'll have to check the weight in just a minute, but for now, let's go ahead and might as well take this still picture and get it just in there. Let's see, turn it just a bit. Yeah, that looks good. All right, grab the still picture, and then let's get ready to get some video. And there we go. Always want the cars, want them all spinning counterclockwise. Just makes things easier if it's more consistent. Lock in the focus right there, and then start to grab the video. Okay, so this is car number 580. I have a feel. With a lot of these cars, I just kind of get a feeling about how they'll perform, but the whole point of All About Aerodynamics is to use the scientific method, and so you can have an educated guess, a hypothesis, which I do, based on all the observations and races that I've participated in and conducted. But until these cars get to the track, you really never know what's going to happen. And that's sort of the fun and excitement of racing Hot Wheels cars. We've got the 70 Plymouth Barracuda entered in. I have to look up the year. But with this car, it's something about the weight of it makes me think it has the potential to do well. That Batmobile, I also think that has a shot. So the BMW is going to be in for a pretty solid challenge just based on these first two cars that we have taken a look at. All right, so I've got that video. So we've got the 70 Plymouth Barracuda. Might as well check the weight right now. The Barracuda weighs in at 35.4 grams. The majority of the cars that we tend to race are in that range between 32, 36 grams, right in there. Sometimes there are cars that are heavier, like this Batmobile. Let's see what this weighs. This seems heavy. It is heavy. It is 42.4 grams. So it is significantly heavier than our champion. And the champion, the BMW weighs in at 36 grams. So the BMW is positioned, it's heavier than the Plymouth, but it is lighter than the Batmobile. So we will see how that all works out in the end. But so far we have two cars ready to race today. We have the Batman Rebirth Batmobile, and we have the Plymouth 1970 Barracuda convertible. So we've got those two. So we went fantasy car, We went reality car. Now it's time to go back to a fantasy car, but I don't think we have any more fantasy cars. Oh, here's just a quick side note. So I go into the storage bin and I'm pulling out cars for this week's, group. And I pulled out a car. I was like, wow, I really like this car. Pulled it out. And then I looked at it and I was looking for the name. And then I saw the name and I was like, oh man, a duplicate. So last week we had this car, the Amazon, and it didn't perform all that well. And I was mentioning how it looked. I wasn't really blown away by the look of it. It looks like it's a fantasy car, but it seems like they just took ideas from Nissans and Acuras and rally cars and just put them all together on this car, and there it is. I'm also not a fan of the different color wheels, but there they are. And the color scheme, it's not really something I would like, but I think that a lot of the students tend to gravitate towards the more colorful cars. And so I like to put things in there that make them have to decide whether or not they're going to choose the car based on the aesthetics, or if they're going to choose based on the science and the things that we've learned, which is why I also put the character cars in there, the Batmobiles, there's a Frozen car, there's a SpongeBob series of cars, just so that there's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cars, just so that the students really have to actually kind of think about what they're going to pick. Are they going to pick based on the superficial elements, or are they going to pick based on the scientific elements? So anyway, this car was one that I picked up and put in. But anyway, that was in from last week. When I went to the bin this week to go take a look at the cars I was going to pull, I found this one. Well, let me stop this turntable first. Move this. I found this. And this is also an Amazon. But this one looks much, much, much better. Much better. I like this one so much more. It's got that metallic, get away from the microphone, get closer to it. It's got the metallic copper paint scheme with the sort of copper and the yellow. I like the wheels. It's just a better looking version of the same car. But I don't like to have duplicates in the fleet. I'm trying to not do that. So even though I really, really like this car much better than the other version, I don't know. I really want to put this one and just swap these out, but that's not how it works. So what I think I'm going to do is, in the future, I am going to start having a tournament, a showdown, to see who gets to stay. If you ever watched professional wrestling back in the day, they used to have these matches called Loser Leaves Town match. And so two wrestlers would have a match, and the person who lost had to leave the town, had to leave the company, was gone. So I'm thinking that I need to bring that back and have some showdowns for the duplicate cars that I have to see which one gets to stay. So we would have a showdown with the Amazon, the version that I like, and it would face off against this version that I'm not really all that fond of. And we would see which car gets to stay. And it would work because I have so many duplicates And it's not, sometimes it is intentional, like in the case of these Nissan Maxima drift cars. I love both of these designs, so I intentionally bought both of them, but I don't know which one is going to make it into the fleet. I'm not going to have both of them be there, but I really like both of these. So this was intentional that I got two of the same car. Usually, the thing that happens is what just happened, which is I buy one car, put it in storage, months later, see a different version of the same car that catches my eye, and I buy it, and then eventually stumble across the fact that I've got two of the same cars. So I think the showdowns are going to be happening, but for now, I'll just keep this Amazon off to the side. All right, back to today. We have so far the Batman Rebirth. We have the 1970 Plymouth Barracuda, and it looks like we're pretty heavy on, I don't know if this would be considered a fantasy car per se, because it's not, but I've never seen a school bus that looks like this. So the next car up is this, the Surfin School Bus, and it's a bus, but it's definitely customized, and it's got some interesting features. Not aerodynamic, but perhaps there's something else to this that will make it fast on the track. So let's crack it open, take a look. Okay, the Surfin School Bus. This is going to be an interesting car. Let's take a look. The reason why is it's clearly not aerodynamic, so we've got that out of the way. But the question is, I think this is hollow. I think so. This yellow part is metal, and this blue part may be metal as well. Yeah. Well, is it? No. Okay. So the yellow part is metal. The blue part is plastic. And then the inside is hollow. So even though this is big and rectangular, there's not a lot to it. And let me check the weight. I'll check the weight right from the jump. This thing weighs 42.8 grams, which is similar to the Batmobile. Yeah, the Batmobile was 42.4 grams. So this bus is not, it's not so much heavier than any of the other cars. So let's go ahead and I guess I'll shoot the video first. And we'll get this video. Let me lock in the focus. Get this here. And as it comes around, I mean, the front of the bus is very similar to the that Volkswagen T2 pickup that didn't do well last week, but this is going to be interesting. It's got the larger wheels at the back, and again, it's just because it's hollow on the inside. I'm kind of curious if that, even though it's heavier, I think, I don't know. This is a tough one, and this is again part of the excitement of racing these cars, because for something's telling me this van might surprise us, but I think that weight is really not going to work in its favor. And if I had to pick between the Batmobile, which is much more aerodynamic than this bus, and they weigh about the same, I'm taking the Batmobile every time. But, you know, there is a reason why we race the cars, because you just never know. And sometimes you get surprised. Let me stop that. And this is the Surfin School Bus. And I didn't look at the year, but I will. Stop this. And let's get a still picture. All right, let's see. And zoom in just a bit. Get it all lined up. It is very clearly a bus. Just a bit. Turn it slightly. And lock in the focus. And get our picture. Okay, so we've got the Surfin School Bus. That is the year on this. It's got 2000 and it's got 2020. It's interesting. Okay, I guess we'll go 2020. It's also interesting because with this being, with the top being metal, the weight is higher up. I don't know that I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make, but it's just an interesting, that really don't see too many cars like this where the heaviest part of the car is, well, I suppose if it's a metal body on a plastic base, then the heaviest part of the car is on the top. But this is just, it's just an interesting setup, and there's no reason to think that this bus should be fast or should outperform any of the other cars. But I'm curious. There's a tank on the page. If you go to AtTheTrack.live and go down to choose a car and you start scrolling through to look at the cars, there's a tank. And I had one student who, she picked the tank, and are you sure you want to pick the tank? And she was certain. And the tank actually, it did a little bit better than everyone thought, but it didn't. Of course, it didn't win. It just wasn't. It was too heavy. The aerodynamics were way off, and it didn't have a shot. But it did win one race. But I think it won that race because the other car crashed. So she won on a technicality, but she won nevertheless. So, all right. We have 3 cars so far. We've got 3 more to go before we hit the track. So we've got the Rebirth Batmobile. We've got the 70 Plymouth Barracuda and the Surfin School Bus. Next up is going to be one of the uglier cars that I have picked up, and that is this one, the Buick Wildcat. So let's crack this open. This is another of those late 90s. This is 1997 on this one. So let's go ahead and crack this one open, take a look at it. All right, let's see. Here we go. We have the Buick Wildcat. This has to be one of the ugliest cars that I have in the fleet. I mean, from the design to that big bubble windshield that they just painted gray to these green blob-like splotches, and the overall design I am not a fan of at all. But aerodynamically, it may have a shot, because if you look at this surface here, the air is going to sweep right up over there. Now, what happens back here? I'm not too sure of, but it may have a shot. So let's go ahead and get a picture of this car, ugly as it is, and that will be, it's going to go in as car number 582 as we inch closer to 600. Turntable working here. Switch to video. Lock in the focus. And we'll get that video. So this is car number 582. This is the Buick Wildcat. And I believe the year, when I looked on the bottom, was 1993. So I'm trying to imagine if I would like this car better if it had a different paint scheme. But I don't know. I just don't like the overall look of it. But it has, it has the potential. Now, the cars, we found that a lot of those 90s cars are heavy. And that is not, on a gravity track, a heavier car is probably, that's a good thing. That can be a good thing. But on our track, which is a drag track with a launcher, being heavier doesn't work in the favor of most cars, which is why that Batmobile and that bus might be in some trouble, because the heavier cars tend to slow down toward the tail end of the track, and you slow down, you lose. So let's see what this car weighs. It is a metal body on a plastic base, and it weighs in at 39.9 grams. So it is on the heavier side, but it is not heavier than the other cars that we have today. So we have the Buick Wildcat, we have the Surfin School Bus, the 70 Plymouth Barracuda, we have the Batman Rebirth Batmobile, and the next car that we are going to be bringing in is another that I picked up at the airport, and it is this one. It is the McLaren Solus GT. Now, this car has all the looks and of a car that will do well on the track. And we will crack this open, take a closer look, and see what we've got here. And by the way, this is, as I mentioned, that I pick up some of these cars at the airport out here at LAX. There's an FAO Schwartz toy store there, and they have Hot Wheels cars, a Hot Wheels display. And a lot of the cars that they have, I don't see in the grocery store or Walmart or Target at all. Or if I do see them, it's usually a few months later. So it's a great place to pick up some cars that you don't really see a lot. The problem is right here. They're charging $4.99, $4.99 for a Hot Wheels car that only should cost $1.25 in the grocery store. So there's a huge markup. So it has to be a car that's either really unique, really catches my eye, or something that I haven't seen other places for me to pick up and pay $5 for one car. So let's crack this $5 car open and see what happens. See what it looks like. Okay. And it is a metal body on a plastic base. They didn't do such a great job. The paint is a little scuffed up, but let's go ahead and take a look at it over here. So we have the McLaren Solus GT, and might as well turn it the right way. Take a look at it. Lock in the focus and get that video. So you can see right at the top where that blue stripe is on the roof that the paint is a little off. It's kind of like a chip in it. But anyway, the white part of this car is metal, and the body, the black part underneath is plastic. And so just because of the shape, it's giving it a unique design. And I'm sure on the real car there are actual openings so that the air can actually flow through the front and around the frame. But I'm not sure how that will translate to this Hot Wheels version of the car. And let's see, this is number 583. This is the McLaren Solus GT. And I didn't check the year. Oh, it is open. If you look in the front, you can see that there is an opening right in the front, right below the, you can see the light shining through right there. So that's interesting. So right here in the front, you can see that there's an opening there. So the air can flow through and potentially up and around these edges and through this part and out the back, much like the actual car. So that's interesting. I'm curious to see how that will perform. Let's switch over and get our still picture of this supercar. Right here. That's pretty good. That's a good looking car. All right. And so this is one that I can imagine seeing again somewhere else, like another version of this. And oh nope, Siri, I wasn't asking for any input. So let's get this picture. Like I was saying, I can see this. If I see this car again and it's got a different paint scheme, I'm definitely picking it up. And it might end up in one of those showdown situations where we have to determine whether it's this car or some other car that's going to remain in the fleet. So let's check the weight of this one. This one's coming in at 32.5 grams, so it's on the lighter side. This car could be another serious challenger for that BMW. I think we're gonna have some good races today, and the year on that one is 2023. So let me drop that in, 2023. Okay, so we have 5 cars. We are about to get to the 6th car, and once again, you still have a little bit of time to go ahead and find a car, select a car, and I will put it up against these 5. But you have to go to AtTheTrack.live, go down to choose a car, and once you get to choose a car, you will end up on this page. On this page, you can find all of the cars that are currently in the All About Aerodynamics At The Track Live fleet. And you can just scroll through, find the car that you want, select it, and take the number of the car. So if you think it's this Corvette C7R, it's number 180. You take that number, you drop it into the chat. Once you drop it into the chat, I'll go pull it, take it to the track, race it against one of these cars. And if your car that you pick beats out these cars, it will take on the BMW M3 GT2, and the car that you pick could end up being the new fastest in fleet car, our grand champion. So we are down to the last car that we're going to introduce today. This is the 6th car, and it is this one, the Lancia Stratos. And this car is from 2013. It's a smaller car. So let's crack this open, take a look at it. Okay, this car, first of all, let me just get it up here. There we go. And take a look at the Lancia Stratos. We had a few weeks there last year where we had a bunch of these smaller cars that I had picked up from a swap meet. And they were doing pretty well. They were kind of dominant until another faster car showed up. But this one, smaller cars, you can't sleep on those. The funny thing is with the cars, especially the smaller cars, there is definitely a balance between let me just make sure I got this all lined up. Right. Good. All right, got the photo. There's a balance between a car being small and a car being fast and a car being too small, because our launcher shoots the cars out with so much force that smaller car, if the car is too light, it is going to actually fly up into the air and come back down and bounce around the track, and all that friction is going to end up in the car not being very fast down the track, because it's going to be bouncing back and forth from side to side as it moves down, or it's simply going to fly off the track and crash, period. But what we found last year with some of those smaller cars is that if the weight was just right, then the cars would stay on the track and be really fast. And they would kind of self-correct as they would move down the track. So they wouldn't, instead of continuing to bounce back and forth and slow down, they would bounce a couple of times, but then they would just balance out, self-correct, stay straight, and fire off down the course. So I don't know where this car will fit in, but once again, that is why we race the cars. And let's see, I didn't get the year on this one. I got the year off the back of the package, but that's not necessarily the year that's on the bottom of the car. This is 2014. All right, so we got the Lancia Stratos 2014. Okay, and let's check the weight on this one. The weight is 32.4 grams, so it's right in line with the McLaren, which was 32.5 grams. So it's a tenth of a gram lighter than the McLaren, yet you'll be able to see the size difference in these two cars. So there is a difference. One is longer, but the McLaren is it's still a light car. I think if I had to pick between these two, initially my initial impressions would be to go with the McLaren, just because it is it's a bigger car. And like I said, the smaller cars are kind of hit or miss. It really just depends on if the weight and the car is balanced properly. It's either going to be quick down the track, or it's going to have some problems and crash and be a disappointment. But it's one of the reasons why racing the cars is as exciting as it is, because you really just never know until the cars get out there and get a chance to do their thing. So let's see. I am just making small adjustment here, and I need to check something with the microphone out by the track. So what we'll do is just take a quick little break, then I'll come back, and then we will hit the track. Now, the timer is going to say like 5 minutes or something. It's not going to be 5 minutes. It's going to be like 2 minutes. I just need to check to make sure that we have sound, proper sound. And usually I do this ahead of time, but I did not. So I'll do that, come back in about 2 minutes, and then we'll hit the track, see what's up. Okay, I think we're good and ready to race. So we have our 6 cars. We have the Lancia Stratos. We have the McLaren Solus GT. I think it was GT. Yep. We have the Buick Wildcat, the Surfin School Bus. We have the Plymouth Barracuda. We have the Batman Rebirth Batmobile. And we have our champion, the BMW M3 GT2. So now all that's left to do is to take these cars to the track. So when we go to the track, just want to let everybody know that this is the view that you will see of the track. We have a 3-camera view, and the cars will start on the far left side in our start line camera, and you will see the cars in the launcher at the top of the screen. I'll give a countdown, 3, 2, 1, race, and then I will release the cars. The cars will come flying out of the launcher towards the bottom of the screen. As they pass out of the bottom of the screen on the left, you can pick them up at the top of the screen in the middle. That is the middle section of our track. The cars will come flying down from the top to the bottom of the middle screen. Once they pass out of the bottom of the middle screen, you can find them on the far right at our finish line camera, and the cars will come flying from the top down to the finish line. When they cross the finish line, cross our finish gate, then you will see two indicator lights, two red lights. One red light will be solid, the other red light will be flashing. The solid red light indicates the winner. The flashing red light indicates the losing car. So, solid red light indicates the winner, flashing red light indicates the losing car. And our races are best 2 out of 3. So, we make sure that each car, after the first race, cars switch sides of the track to make sure that no car has any kind of advantage based on anything happening with the track. Although I've checked the track earlier and everything's lined up, looks good, so we should have some good races. So now let's go to the track and I will meet you over there and we will get started to see who is going to be today's champion. Okay, here we go. We are all set up. Just going to triple check to make sure the sound is where it should be. Hold on, let me check this. Okay. Because there was a race where we had a sound issue and couldn't hear. 1, 2, yep. Sound is good, so we are ready to race. Which cars will match up first? Let's see if that Batmobile can do what it needs to do. Let's see. All right. We'll see if the Batmobile will fit into the launcher, because that was something that I discussed that it might not fit. Oh, it fits. So no worries. The Batmobile is good to go, and we will have the Batmobile. Let's take on this big school bus. So this is going to be interesting because I want to make sure that the school bus is going to also fit, because one of the issues is that the school bus being a taller, actually it's not that tall. Interesting. So sometimes with trucks, I have a taller cover that I put on to prevent the cars from flying off the track. And if I have a taller truck, I have to use the taller cover, but that gives a disadvantage to the actual cars for a bunch of different reasons, but we don't need to go into that because the school bus is not that tall. So here we go. We're going to go with the Batmobile, the Batman, what was it? The Batman Rebirth Batmobile. That is going to be in lane 1, and the Surfin School Bus is going to be in lane number 2. And let me slide this thing over just to make sure. Yeah, the school bus is good to go. Nice. All right, I like that it's got a lower, even though it's a school bus, it has a relatively low profile, so that's good. So here we go. Batmobile lane 1. Surfin School Bus in lane 2. Remember, the solid red light indicates the winning car. So here we go. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. the school bus was moving, and like I said, what tends to happen with most heavier cars is they start to slow down. And even though the weight difference between these two wasn't huge, you could definitely see the school bus start to slow down toward the tail end of the track, and the Batmobile just went ahead and passed it. So the Batmobile is up 1-0. We're going to switch sides of the track and see if the school bus can make up that difference. So here we go. Let's see. Let's see if the school bus has it in it. So now the school bus is going to be lined up in lane number 1. And the school bus did a pretty good job. I'm not going to lie. That was, it did better than I expected. And it had the lead on the Batmobile for a while until it started to slow down. And once it started to slow down, that is when the Batmobile passed it up. And that is that's one of the things. Someone asked me about the aerodynamics of these cars, and this is where we see it. Because the bus, clearly not aerodynamic, just a big rectangle, started to slow down. And these cars weigh about the same. So when you start to think about the factors that cause one car to slow down versus the others, there's a lot of things that we can probably take into account, but one of the keys is the way that the air is impacting the cars as they move down the track. So there we go. Here we go. Race number 2. School bus is in lane 1. Batmobile in lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. And the Batmobile took it. The cars were kind of even for a little while, but then the Batmobile took that race with relative ease. The school bus, better than expected, but not good enough. So it will go back, and then I will set the Batmobile aside. So we've got the Batmobile ready to move on. We have, let's go with, interested in this Buick Wildcat. So let's go with the Buick Wildcat against the 70 Plymouth Barracuda. See what happens there. And the Barracuda, that was one that I thought, for some reason, it's got the weight of it. It makes me think it will be a good, it will do well. So we'll see. The Barracuda is going into lane number 1. And we will put the Buick Wildcat, this hideous monstrosity of a car, in lane number 2. All right, so those are lined up. Getting it lined up. Okay. So the Buick Wildcat is in lane 2. The Plymouth Barracuda, wait, just rolled forward from the starting block. Can't have that. Sometimes these cars, hang on. Yeah, they roll. I want them pressed right up against the launching block every time. And so sometimes there's a little bit of adjustments that need to be made. Okay, so we've got the Barracuda in lane 1. We've got the Buick in lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Okay, so the hideous Buick crashed right out of the gate. So, as you saw from the rules that were posted up before we got started, a car, if it crashes, we restart the race. If a car crashes twice consecutively, then it is automatically eliminated, because cars that crash repeatedly in exactly the same place and way, there's usually a reason for it, and just running the races over and over isn't going to change that if there's some fundamental basic problem and reason why the car is crashing. So you crash twice consecutively, you're done. So now this Buick Wildcat really needs to come through and make sure it stays on the track. Meanwhile, the Barracuda wobbled its way down the track and did not look fast at all. So if this Buick has any kind of speed, it should be able to win this race. So let's go again. This is race number 1. We've reset. The Barracuda is still in lane 1. The Buick is in lane 2. If the Buick crashes, it's eliminated and we move on. So let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Woo. Okay, I see you, Buick. The Buick didn't take too kindly to my speaking so negatively about it, and it stayed on the track and blew the doors off of the Plymouth. And it looks like the Plymouth is not the sleeper car that I thought it might be. And based on how slow it looked in the first race when the Buick crashed, and how slow it was in that race where it got beat down, I don't expect much from it, but we are going to switch lanes and see if there is going to be any significant improvement in its performance. So the Plymouth Barracuda is now in lane number 2, and we will put the hideous Buick Wildcat in lane number 1. If it will stay put. Okay. All right, so we've got the Buick Wildcat in lane number 1. We've got the Plymouth Barracuda in lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The Barracuda proceeded to crash, so we will restart and run that race back, even though at the point that it crashed, it was far behind the Buick. So I don't have any hope whether or not the Buick or whether or not the Barracuda manages to stay on the track or not. I don't think it's going to change the seemingly inevitable outcome that it is going to lose, because this Buick is definitely the faster car. Now, the question is, does the Buick look so fast because it's racing a slow car, or is the Buick actually that car? So, let's get it lined up one more time. Okay, so that looks good. Go ahead and... All right, so here we go. Buick's in lane 1, Plymouth in lane 2. If the Plymouth crashes, it's out. If the Plymouth loses, it's out. The only way the Plymouth can survive is to win this race. So let's see what happens. 1, race. Wow, we've got a little bit of drama now. Now, the Buick crashed again. So the Buick is interesting because when it stays on the track, it's pretty fast. But it's crashed twice now. But it hasn't crashed twice consecutively. Therefore, it can stay. But if it crashes on this next run, it's out and the Plymouth will win. So this Buick needs to stay on the track. There's no... If it can stay on the track, it's clearly the faster car, but rules are rules. And if it can't stay on the track, it is going to be eliminated, and the slow Plymouth is going to move on a technicality. So the Plymouth rattled its way down to the finish line, and good for it for staying alive. But the Buick, don't ruin your shot by crashing. So here we go. I'm going to line this Barracuda back up one more time and see if it can manage to win. If both these cars stay on the track, there's no way that the Barracuda wins. But if the Plymouth crashes, if the Buick crashes, then the Barracuda's moving on. So let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. And the Barracuda is eliminated. The ugly Buick moves on. The Buick Wildcat managed to stay on the track, stay in the game, and took that race quite easily. So it will move on alongside the Rebirth Batmobile, and it will await the winner of the next matchup, which is between the Lancia Stratos and the McLaren Solus GT. So let's get these cars lined up and see what kind of race we're going to get from them. Okay, so we'll set up the McLaren in lane number 1. And it's a good-looking hypercar, supercar. And then we've got the Lancia Stratos, small. We're going to see if this small car, how does it perform on the track? Is it too small and light, or does it have that perfect balance between size and speed? So here we go. We've got the Lancia Stratos in lane 2. We've got the McLaren Solus GT in lane 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The Lancia Stratos pulled it out. So we have, let's see, here we got the Lancia Stratos. It did well. Hang on, let me check something because I can't see. I had to reset something, and as a result, I couldn't see if there were any comments. Okay, so the Lancia Stratos stayed on the track. It was not too small, and it was able to beat out the Solus McLaren in the first race. So now we're going to switch sides of the track, and we are going to make sure that both cars are in here. We've got the McLaren Solus GT in lane number 2. And we have the Lancia Stratos in lane number 1. Hold up. Just gotta get the... Alright. Just gotta make sure the launching blocks are lined up properly. Okay, so we've got the Lancia Stratos in lane 1. We've got the McLaren Solus GT in lane 2. If the Lancia Stratos wins, it is moving on. So let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The McLaren had something to say and came back and took that race. So the McLaren has tied this up 1-1. So we will go to a third and final race to see which of these cars will move on to the next round. And that was a good bounce back race from the McLaren. So we will switch lanes again, and we will see which of these cars is going to take it. So I'm going to put the Lancia Stratos in lane number 2. And we will put the McLaren back in lane 1. Cars are lined up and ready to go. Whichever car takes this will be moving on. So let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Lancia Stratos took the race and is moving on. So we have 3 cars remaining. We have the Lancia Stratos. We have the Batman Rebirth Batmobile. And we have the Buick Wildcat. So let's go ahead and we'll match up the Batmobile against the Buick and see what happens. All right. Set this up. Make sure everything is lined up properly. Good. We will put Buick in lane 1. We will put the Batmobile in lane number 2. The Batmobile was a heavier car, but we will see how that ultimately impacts its performance. All right, the Batmobile is in lane 2. We have the Buick Wildcat in lane 1. Here's race 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The Batmobile hung on and pulled it out. That was interesting because the Batmobile didn't have I think they both had pretty good starts, but the Batmobile looked like if this track were about 3 feet longer, I think the the Buick would have caught the Batmobile, but it didn't. The track is not 3 feet longer. The track is exactly as long as it is, and therefore we have a second race coming up in which the Buick needs to win in order to maintain its position. So we will put the Buick in lane number 2. We will put the Batmobile in lane number 1. And get it lined up just right. Come on. Sometimes the cars are a little temperamental coming out as they start. Okay, so we've got them lined up. We've got the Batmobile in lane 1. We've got the Buick in lane 2. Let's see how this turns out. Three, two, one, race. And the Buick takes it. Lane 2 is hot today, and that just means that the Buick is really going to have to turn it on if it's going to take a victory in this next race, because so far, these last couple of races, lane 2 has been the lane, and I don't know that there's, let me double check everything. Yep, there's nothing wrong with lane 1. But lane 2 has been, sometimes it happens like that, but a faster car will be a faster car. But when you have two cars that are evenly matched, who knows? There can be any number of small things that make the difference. So we'll have to see. Let's see. I'm going to switch sides of the track, and the Batmobile will now be going back to lane number 2, where it had some success. And the Buick will be going out of lane number 1. And let's see here. Get it lined up just right. Pushed up right against the launching block. And there we go. All right, so we've got the Buick lined up there. Make sure I want to have these cars pressed right up against the launching block, and sometimes they'll roll forward just a bit, and I don't like that, because if they're not touching the launching block, then the launching block will ultimately punch the cars instead of pushing the cars, and that can make the difference between a spectacular crash and a good solid run on the track. So just trying to get it lined up. All right, good. We've got the Buick in lane 1. We've got the Batmobile in lane 2. Each car has won a race, and now we're going to see which car is going to move on to face the Lancia Stratos in the finals. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. And it is the Batmobile. The Batmobile takes it. So the Batmobile will be moving on, and we will have our final matchup be the Batmobile versus the Lancia Stratos. And the Batmobile, interestingly enough, is, I think, other than the school bus, is the heaviest car today, and the Lancia Stratos is one of the lightest. So let's run this race, this final race, to see who's going to be today's champion. We'll have the Batmobile back in lane 2, and we'll put the Lancia Stratos in lane number 1. If I can get it to stay put. Oh, it wants to roll forward. It's ready to go. Okay, let's try this again. Get it in there. Okay, got it. Lancia Stratos, lane 1. Batmobile, lane 2. This is the finals. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Woo. The Batmobile obliterated the Lancia Stratos. By such a huge margin that I don't know. I'm wondering if the Lancia Stratos just got a weird something happened on the release, because if the Batmobile is that much faster than this car, then we may be looking at a potential new fastest in fleet car. The BMW better watch out. But perhaps the Lancia just got a bad start, which happens. But that's why we have best 2 out of 3. So there is another opportunity to be great, and the Lancia had better figure things out, because if it loses again, it's done. The Batmobile is lined up in lane number 1, and the Lancia Stratos lined up in lane number 2. Okay, cars are ready to go. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Okay, there's some magic going on in lane 2 today, because the Lancia Stratos performed much better and got off to a much better start and won that race. So now it's 1-1, and we're going to switch things up, and it's going to be interesting, because whatever's happening, whatever secret sauce there is cooking in lane 2 today, the Lancia Stratos is going to have to overcome it if it is going to beat out the Batmobile. So let's see here. Get these cars all lined up. The Batmobile is going back into lane 2. It is lined up and ready to go. Oh, almost. Let's get it in there. Okay, Batmobile is all lined up. Lancia Stratos, can it win from the number 1 lane? Can it become the number 1 car from the number 1 lane? We'll see. Lancia Stratos has 1 win. It's in lane 1. Batman Rebirth Batmobile has 1 win. It's in lane 2. Let's see what happens. This is it. Who gets to move on? Three, two, one, race. Well, the Lancia crashed, so it is going to have an opportunity to race again. And we are going to get things set up right here. And get these launching blocks straight. Get the Stratos in here. Like that. And let me go get the Batmobile, which looked to have another outstanding fast performance out of lane number 2. So we will grab that car, bring it back, and set these up again and see how they perform. And here we go. All right. This lined up. Okay. And here we go. We are going to redo our final race. So the Lancia Stratos has 1 win. The Batmobile has 1 win. We are now going to see which of these cars is going to move on to try and take the fastest in fleet title. So let's see what happens. Three, 2, 1, race. Oh! It was just that close. It was just that close. The Lancia Stratos almost did it, but it did not beat the Batmobile. The Batmobile takes the race. That was close. That was close. So we have today's winner, which is the Batman Rebirth Batmobile. And now the Batman Rebirth Batmobile gets to take on the BMW. And we will see if this BMW M3 can maintain its status as the fastest in the fleet. And that is going to be, that may be a tall order, because this Batmobile, especially out of lane number 2, has been on fire. Absolutely on fire. So will that continue? Can that continue? I don't know. So we're going to put the Champ in lane number 1. Line it up right there, ready to go. Ready to go defend that title. Is the fastest in fleet car. And the Batmobile is going to go into lane number 2. Right there. All lined up and ready to go. We have the Batmobile that has just been on fire, especially from lane number 2, against the BMW M3, our fastest in fleet car, the champion. Let's see. This is race number 1. Let's see what happens. Three, 2, 1, race. The BMW said, I don't care what you've been doing from lane 2. I don't care that it looks like there's some advantage that you have in lane 2, that you have some kind of mojo, that you have some kind of advantage, because you don't. The BMW said, I'm the champion, and if you want to take this title, you're going to have to beat me. I gave you lane 2 to start with, and it made no difference. The BMW takes race number 1, and it really wasn't even all that close. So we are now going to switch lanes. The BMW is going to be in, glad I didn't catch my fingers in that. Okay, the BMW is going to be in lane number 2. The Batmobile is going to be in lane number 1. The Batmobile is going to need to win this race, or it's done. It's over. It had a good, nice run today, but that run will be coming to a screeching halt immediately if it cannot win this next race. So, we have the current fastest in fleet car, the BMW M3, in lane number 2, and we have the Batmobile in lane number 1. The Batmobile needs to win this or it is over. So, here we go. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The Batmobile crashes out of lane number 1, and therefore we will restart and rerun that race. The Batmobile, I believe that's its first crash of the day. It's not a good look, but it's still in the game. It just needs to win this race. The BMW is down at the finish line saying, sure, I'll run it back. It makes no difference to me. I'm the champion. I've got all the confidence in the world. I'm ready to go. So, the BMW M3, bringing it back to the start line. It is already up 1-0. If it wins, it will move on and continue to be our fastest in fleet car, and it will await a challenger. But it's not over yet. We've seen cars come back from 0-1 deficits to win. But can the Batmobile do it? We'll find out. Here we go. This is the second race. If the Batmobile crashes again, it is going to be eliminated. But hopefully it can stay on the track. And if it can pull out a win, we'll go to a third and final race. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The BMW M3 continues to be our fastest in fleet car. It absolutely obliterated the Batmobile, and I am going to gather up these cars. We're going to take them back into the garage and give some final thoughts and take a look at our champ. Hang on. I'll be right back. So the BMW M3 GT2 is and remains our fastest in fleet car. There is no question that this is absolutely one of the fastest cars that we've ever had on the All About Aerodynamics AtTheTrack.live track. And I thought one of these cars today, I thought this was going to be the week that one of these cars took it out, because we had the supercar, we had the character car, we had the smaller car, we had the aerodynamic car with that weird ugly Buick, and none of those cars could get the job done. It just was not in the cards for them to take out the BMW. And in fact, this BMW has now beaten, let's see, how many cars has it beaten? It's beaten 11, let's see, 65 to 75. That's 10. And then it's beaten about 19 different cars, ultimately, because it races now week to week. It only races the fastest car in the group, but that's all that means is that it has beaten the car that's beaten all of the other cars. So in effect, if it's beaten, so today it beat the Batmobile. The Batmobile was faster than the other 5 cars. Since the Batmobile was faster than the other 5 cars, then it stands to reason that the BMW would have beaten those other 5 cars because it beat the car that beat those other 5 cars. So ultimately, this is the fastest car, and until we can find a car to beat it, this is the fastest in fleet car. This is our champion, and this is the car that I am going to need to create some promotion around, because this car is not going to be easy to beat. Some car is going to have to come along to really show something, because the Batmobile was doing really well out of lane 2 for whatever reason, and the BMW beat it easily out of lane 2. I mean, the BMW was in lane 1, Batmobile was in lane 2, where it had been doing well, and the BMW just destroyed it. So I don't know which car it is that's ultimately going to beat this one, but until that car shows up, this is our fastest in fleet car. This is the champion. This is the measuring stick, the bar. This is the car that has set the standard that all of the other cars are going to need to meet to try and beat. So if you think that you can choose a car that is faster, once again, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live, scroll down to choose a car. It will take you to this page. On this page, you have 583 other cars you can pick from. That if you think one of these is faster than that car, than that BMW, all you have to do is next week when we race, you take the number of the car and you drop it into the chat. I will pull that car and we will race it against this new 6 cars. If it can beat all 6 of those cars, then it can go up against the BMW M3. But until somebody picks a car or I find a car that I'm pulling out of storage, I don't know. This BMW M3, we might be looking at that car for quite some time, because it's been impressive week after week after week. So when a car shows up that can give it a challenge, that can take it out, then that will be something to see. But that day is not today, because today the BMW M3 is the fastest in fleet car. Now, if you want to keep up on everything that's happening with All About Aerodynamics and At The Track Live, you can follow us on Instagram. If you want to watch any of the past episodes of At The Track Live, you can find the link you can go to AtTheTrack.live, or you can, in our Instagram account, the links are in the bio, and you can go to our YouTube page, click on live, and there will be a listing of all of the episodes. I am going back through and I'm listing all of the cars that we introduced for that episode. I'm also adding in time codes. So if you just want to see the races, you can select that and just watch the races, or you can watch the reviews and watch the entire show. It's up to you. If you want more information about All About Aerodynamics and how to bring our science program to your school or organization or special event, then you can go to aaerodynamics.com, or you can find links to that site all over the place at our Instagram account. And you can learn more about the options that we have for our science program. And if you want to contact me to get some more information, there is contact info, phone numbers, email. You can contact me. I'll let you know everything you need to know, and hopefully we can bring all about aerodynamics to your students and have some fun, learn some things, and race some Hot Wheels cars. And with that, we have come to the end of another episode of All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live. I am Coach James. I'll see you on Instagram. And if I don't see you there, then next time I will see you next Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific. See you at the races.